school with a friend of mine, Anthony Dirt, and he was telling me, there was one day I was like, at the time I was getting my hair cut, I think it was from Keith on 14th Street. And he had told me how, like, you know, we were just sharing conversations, and one day, I don't think he was kind of booked, and I wasn't making appointments at that time, so I stopped by the barbershop, and he was like, "Yo, you should go to my boy Charles over at HIPOST."
Keith sent you?
No, Dirt did.
Okay.
Yeah, Dirt took me. So
Keith's a good dude, but I didn't know he was that good.
So he brought me over there, and I want him that time. From then, it's just been, the local shop. I just felt it was like at the time you going to a barbershop as a youngin', being like I was there at the time. I was like 12 years old. It's kind of like either cats would just snap it on you or make you feel good, or they would welcome you.
Hold that thought about snapping, because I came to a realization later. So you say, the barbershop was about snapping and that sort of thing, and
I mean, you learned, you picked up a lot as a youth growing up in the barbershop. You know what I mean? It just kind of told you a story about the neighborhood, and
you definitely pick up some do's and don'ts.
right.
So I learned some don'ts in that aspect. You remember Woody, my partner in the high life out here.
Oh yeah.
And we became close friends in that era. And we're brothers today.
So
We were talking about how it was brought up to us later that somebody would walk in and be wearing like some sneakers that were like maybe less than, or some jeans that were okie dokie, and we comment on that because it was just kind of like the comedy of the shop.
right.
But then we later find out that somebody was like, "Yo, you made me feel bad, man. Like,
Right.
kind of hurt my feelings." So like, you look back on it, like maybe we was doing a little too much. Like, you want to, you're charged with being a member of the community when you're a barber.
Right.
Right? You're not just cutting hair and making money. There's more to it than that. You may not realize it, but I think I realized it kind of early in that, like, I wouldn't accept any promo logos on my capes and stuff like that. I felt like that was kind of selling out what this barbershop thing was about. You know what I mean? I felt like I had some early morals, at least barbershop wise, right?
Thank you.
So yeah, Woody and I reflected on that, like maybe we were a little too much on some of the folks. We didn't want to make anybody feel bad, but then again, we in the jungle, man. It's like kind of like the strong will survive, and not to put it on anybody else, but these are men raising men with kind of slick comments and sometimes misinformation, to be honest.
Funny thing is, like, it was kind of a blessing because it prepared you for, you going to school. You know what I mean? And it prepared me, gave me thick skin. So I'm kind of grateful. I'm kind of grateful for the barbershop.
Oh yeah.
It taught me a lot of morals and, kind of street knowledge that you don't get at home.
Yeah, you just pick up stuff, not even from the barbers as much as all the characters that show up there.
Right.
And
so I think I bought, if I'm not mistaken, I think I bought some stuff off of, like, clothing wise, off in that barbershop. Saved me a lot of money.
And to be honest, I was afraid to charge too much, because when you know everybody around the way, they say, I know this is 50, but can I get that for 40? So you do those kinds of things. And I started learning in those years to say lines like, you don't haggle at the gap, do you? You know what I mean? Like,
kind of support your people just as if you were supporting your local designer.
Even though low key, even the pop-up we just did last year, and anybody's seeing this is a 2020 thing. We did this in 2019. I still got friends that are like, "Yeah, you charging 80 for that? I'm not paying for that, man." Like,
I mean, you gotta respect it.
You gotta hit me for 60.
You
But
gotta
these people been down for 2 decades with me. How can I say no? Like, those are family.
I mean,
family folks.
Honestly, it kind of told me because, growing up in the shop, and seeing you, you know, create this. I won't say merch because it was just you created this aesthetic. You know what I mean? It was like this representation of what the barbershop and what HIPOST meant. So it kind of taught me, growing up, I wanted to do a t-shirt. And, it kind of gave me that, like, entrepreneur sense of what's, kind of gave me, like, that kind of, like, that rush.
I'm happy for that. I've heard that from a few people, and, I still, as I've just kind of come to terms with this phrase, imposter syndrome, sometimes I don't believe I'm where I'm at. When I first became a school teacher, I had some folks that rolled up for parent-teacher night, and they not hide kids, but I knew them from the block from other things that won't go on camera.
Right.
And they were like, how'd you get up there? Right? And I just kind of looked at them and winked like,
right.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I happened to be a college graduate, so when things shifted in my world, I was able to go take a job as a sub. And then the sub job led to a permanent job at the middle school. So I was teaching at Corlears.
Was that the first school you teach that?
Junior high school 56, for anybody that understands.
I went to PS 134 down the block.
Right then. Then I ended up at 188. So folks from the Lower East Side, you know what it is.
Right. Well, it's good to see somebody else in there that represents them.
Absolutely. I feel like Biz. I remember Biz said in the record, I'm from everywhere. I'm from everywhere, in a sense, I'm born out here, largely raised in New York, but I have all these sensibilities, like from the places I've been. I love the beach. I'm born on the beach. I'm born in Santa Monica.
Rushed off to New York and then back and then forth, that sort of thing. That's my parents.
So I had no idea that I would perpetuate the same pattern and go back and forth.
Wow.
And my kids are now doing the same thing. So
that's a life right there to be able to go be bi-coastal, man.
Yeah, well, here's what it looks like, right? So here's a story. As barbers will tell you these damn stories where they're shaping you up and you can't laugh while I'm doing your mustache. It's gonna come out crooked, and that's my entertainment.
Could we chop the hands a little? Could we chop the hands?
You didn't like that biker thing I left on you before?
I was hitting it. But it's just comes
different.
up.
You just not used to you're gonna get to a point where you can just let me style you and don't worry about it. But okay, I'll cut it off for now. So I'm walking out Third Avenue with my daughter a couple years ago, and they just started laughing out of nowhere. She's like, "What's so funny?" I said, "You gotta watch what you wish for." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, I wish to be bi-coastal at a point, And I ended up being bi-coastal because of separation and divorce and all this sort of thing. And I would fly back to New York, fly the kids out, and do this double thing. I was in New York twice a year, and they would come see me, and I was spending all this money. So in essence, technically, I was bi-coastal, but it hurt financially. It wasn't what bi-coastal was supposed to look and feel like. So I thought. So I think when you ask for stuff, when you wish for stuff, you gotta add the details, or it may come out a little twisted. So here I am, bi-coastal, but it cost me a whole lot of money and anguish.
I mean, that had to be like different as a parent, like kind of like being a father from afar.
Yeah. That became painful. And I realized I had to actively, not force myself, but definitely put effort into being in their lives. Otherwise, I just could have, inadvertently been like, okay, I live in California now. I don't see my kids much. I've heard those stories. We've all heard those stories. And being in the classroom gave me a little extra understanding of, what happens when you're not around your kids? You get to see they're needy, and they start seeking support and love elsewhere. So I'm not gonna be that dad that wasn't around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be there. I'm right around the corner. I'm a phone call away.
Right.
I'm a flight away. You know. And as much as I could, remain in their lives. You know. So. And it hasn't all been.
So you do like
Not totally successful with that. To be honest.
do joint custody or?
Well, they're all adults now. Technical adults, and I have a good relationship with my 3 daughters. I don't have the best relationship with my son, you know, due to, I'll just call it misunderstandings. And until we work that out, you know, that's where we stand. But, you know, if you ever happen to see this tape, like get hit by a bus tomorrow, my daughter hates that phrase. Oh, I love you. And ain't nothing changed. It ain't changed then, ain't changed. Ain't gonna change.
It's crazy. And I think what you touched on earlier about like how, you know, barbers are just more than just barbers. I feel like that's how our relationship, you know, you were just more than just a barber. You was like a, you know, a mentor. And we spoke about like, I have 4 kids and I have an older son who I'm going through a similar situation. And you, on how you know, we talk about those things, it kind of resonates with me as far as what I was going through with my son right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, just being, you know, going through what you're going through with, you know, in the situation with their mothers, you know, sometimes the kids get affected. And you know, I just, you know, for the record too, man, I'd love to say I love my son, you know, even though, you know, we have to kind of communicate the ways we do communicate. Lines get cut sometimes. You know, it's not easy. It's rough. I take it out on, you know, on other things in life, but it's good to hear that, you know, you can relate about those, you know, ideas, and you guided me through. Part of the reason why, you know, I'm still sane.
Hey,
you know what I mean?
Hey, let me tell you.
That's what, like,
you know, 2 things. One, many barbers are what I am to, you know, their folks.
Right.
But understand that, like, we, you know, almost like a comedian needs the response from the audience.
Right.
Like, I vibe off of you the same way, you know, like, I need it.
Right.
The check-in is worth more than the money. You know what I mean? Like, how's the family, this, that, and the other. Like, my weeklies, my bi-weeklies, like, yo, I need that.
Right.
And during this COVID time, when I don't have to check in, it kind of drove me nuts. That I can't check in with my people, you know? Money comes and goes, but I build relationships. That's what I do best.
I feel
You
like
know?
people.
Like, you end up going to weddings and stuff like that. They're not inviting you for convenience.
Right.
It might be $100, $150 a plate, you know what I mean?
Right.
You end up being friends and family with folks, you know? But,
I feel like people in the same sense, like, it's, you know, you just rarely run into, you know, people that you can relate to on many different levels. So we almost had a barbershop together, Kel.
I know.
That barber idea, and you know, and the I think that was one thing too, was like, you gave me the confidence of when I was young and I wanted to be an entrepreneur. You didn't tell me like, yo, you can't do that. There's many people in life that'll tell you like, yo, you can't do this, you know, you can't do that, you know. They'll shoot your idea down, but you being the older cat who had a barber business, to even like sit down and hear what I had, you know, my idea was, that meant a lot to me. And even though things didn't pan out, I mean, obviously you're doing very well, and this is just barbering, it's just you. But I took those same principles and, you know, that same conversation and put it into something else, and I always, you know, didn't let anybody get in my way.
Hey man, I figure if I could do this with my lack of business knowledge, I didn't go to school for no business. I went to school for graphics. You know.
Okay,
I like to create things, but I don't want to maintain daily business.
Right.
I want to create, you know what I mean, and move on. But it's never that convenient. Like, you gotta sort of like do the unfun work too. You know, and I think we both realize that.
I mean, growing is hard, man. Change. I mean, you know, throughout the years, like, you know me since I was like 12 years old, running around with my head cut off, didn't have any direction, you know, didn't have a father in the home. But like I said, community, you know, takes a village to raise one, and I appreciate you, man.
Man, you know what it is.
Thank you.
Indeed. No, thank you.